Everybody, welcome into another edition to The Point. If we're all doing well. Lots to dive into today. Training camps are opening in the NFL. The NFL is officially back. Storylines galore. There will be lots of things to talk about. New York Jets are on Hard Knocks. Aaron Rodgers and all that drama. That should be fun. That starts in early August. And as I mentioned on Monday, there will be specific and special pods with the NFL, top 32 quarterbacks list going into the season. We'll do a breakdown of every division, go through every team, players that came in, top storylines going into the season, and more. I plan to do at least 4 to 5 of these NFL type podcasts. Just there's lots to talk about. There's lots of content, lots of changes in the league, from quarterbacks to wide receivers who were cut. There's always changes, and I'm sure there will be storylines in training camp as well. So that'll be a daily talking point. And we're going to talk some football today. I was going to start with baseball. Let's start with football, because I got some thoughts about a certain pitcher last night and about a certain company, and in regards to Major League Baseball. But we'll save that for a little bit. So the NFL. Monday was the franchise tag deadline at 5 p.m. Atlantic. You had until July 17th, 5 p.m. to work out a long-term deal with your respective club if they had franchise tagged you. And there was Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard. All three of them running backs for the Giants, Raiders, and the Cowboys. And we got to 5 p.m. and no long-term deals were worked out. So here's how this works. These three men now will play under the franchise tag, which is $10.1 million on a one-year deal, and they will be a free agent after this coming season. But the players aren't happy. Well, two of them, anyway. Tony Pollard has done something different than Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. He signed the franchise tender. He signed the franchise tag contract, meaning he will be in training camp when it opens next week for the Cowboys. The Jets open today because they are in the Hall of Fame game. They start earlier. But Tony Pollard will be in training camp. He's coming off a broken leg, if you can recall. So when he will be ready, who knows, but he will be present at training camp. Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley will not. They have not signed that franchise tender yet. And what this means is they do not have to report until week 1 of the season. They will not be fined. They will not be penalized. They cannot go to training camp without signing this tender. So they are well within their rights to do this, and I expect both of them to not report until the last possible second. But the bigger topic of conversation is, what do they do? Do they hold out? Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. Josh Jacobs had the most scrimmage yards, over 2,000, the most rushing yards, and the most touches in the NFL last season. He was an all-purpose back. He was a jack of all trades, and he was the bell cow for the Raiders. He's 25 years old. He's still in his prime, and they couldn't work out a long-term deal. Saquon Barkley, 4th in the NFL in rushing, 3rd in all-purpose yards, and was the nucleus, was the focal point of the New York Giants offense, the resurgence last year. Two different elements here, two different ways to approach this. And I'm going to dive into all of it. I'm going to start with overall running backs not being paid. Running backs not being valued. It's a passing league. The game used to be about the quarterback, but it wasn't like it is now. I consider myself a sports historian, and you do that by watching, you do that by learning, and by talking to different people. I grew up in a household where my father idolized Dan Marino. Loves Dan Marino. And Dan Marino changed the quarterback position. Before Dan Marino, it wasn't let's air out 50-yard bombs. Let's throw 15 to 18 times a game, rely on our running back, play good defense, and let's win 24-21 in a seesaw battle based on the running back. John Elway's in the Hall of Fame, one of the great quarterbacks of all time. He wasn't the most important element on his own team when they won the Super Bowls. That would be Terrell Davis, a running back who did everything. You had Shannon Sharp on that team, a Hall of Famer. You had Rod Woodson, Hall of Famer, Elway, but it was Terrell Davis who was the most important element because he ran the football a ton and he did everything for that team. But Dan Marino changed the position where he would throw 40, 50 times a game. He would throw the ball 50, 60 yards down the field. He was an innovator. Before Brett Favre, before Patrick Mahomes, before Aaron Rodgers, it was Dan Marino. You don't hear about him as much as being that innovator because he didn't win a Super Bowl. Doesn't change the fact that he changed the position. John Elway wouldn't have won a Super Bowl if he didn't have Terrell Davis. Because before he got with Terrell Davis, he was 0-2 in Super Bowls, and he was going to be looked at as the greatest quarterback to never win. But through the years, seeing Marino, seeing Favre, seeing Aaron Rodgers, and offensive coordinators becoming more intelligent, more creative, and just seeing the bigger picture, NFL executives have determined that the running back is a bit piece and not a necessary piece. You need a running back, but you don't need a running back. You don't need a him running back, as the kids are saying right now. You don't need him. You need a guy. You need, for the Kansas City Chiefs, you need Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick. You make it to a Super Bowl, they win with that running back. His backup is Jerick McKinnon, who's an undrafted free agent. The Philadelphia Eagles cut Miles Sanders this season. He's getting paid $7.2 million to play for the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles are spending $7.2 million that used to be going to Miles Sanders on 6 different running backs going into this season. So they just got a bunch of guys that can run, that are fast, that are good, but are not great. They spend their money elsewhere. How about all-pro tackle Lane Johnson? How about giving Jalen Hurts a big contract extension in the offseason? This is where they've allocated their resources. They traded for A.J. Brown, given him a long-term contract. So the game has changed. And I understand this frustration from running backs because nobody takes more punishment than a running back. Every time you get the ball, you're getting hit. Every time. You're in the middle of 350-pound men at the line of scrimmage, and you're running into them. It's crazy. It's a brutal position, and it's a thankless job when it comes to contract, pay, long term. Running backs, on average, play 2.5 years in the NFL. 2.5 years. These ones like Jacobs, Barkley, they're getting through the rookie contracts. They can't get a long-term deal. Why? Because San Francisco traded for Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is the highest paid back. Carolina regrets giving him that contract because he couldn't stay healthy. Incredible talent, one of the most athletic players in the entire NFL, but if you're not on the field, you're no fucking good to me. So it's a battle between players and teams on money, my value, and where those two things coincide. And we've seen Derrick Henry speak out, Christian McCaffrey, former NFLer Jerome Bettis. But I don't think running backs should have a gripe with teams right now, because this is just the facts of life. What running backs need to do, if they really want significant change, it's not analysts going on TV and complaining about running back contracts. It's not saying, oh, there's a problem with the running back money. Okay, how does that help them? Here's what they have to do. In the next collective bargaining agreement, they need to fix the structure of when they can get paid. If I was a running back and I'm DeMaurice Smith, if I'm Troy Vincent, who works for the NFLPA, I am talking to the league, and I want running backs to be eligible to get paid after 2 years. 2 years in the NFL, your contract is up. You can get a long-term extension. You work to get rid of the franchise tag, but even if you have the franchise tag in year 3, it's better because, okay, year 3, year 4, maybe you can get a long-term deal because you're still in your physical prime. But the years have to go down. And I say this because these running backs are getting 300 plus carries a season in college. In college, their bodies are getting worn down there because college is not like the NFL. Offenses are very different. Running backs are valued in college. Sure, it helps to have a good quarterback. But Michigan got to the Final Four not because they had J.J. McCarthy as their quarterback. Hell no. They had one of the best backs in the nation. They had an awesome offensive line. J.J. McCarthy was the bit piece to that offense. Alabama for decades had a okay quarterback and awesome running backs, aka Derrick Henry, who won a Heisman Trophy. So we still see it. Running backs come to the league. 3 running backs got taken in the first round of the draft this year. It's an anomaly, but they're still very good. Bijan Robinson went 8th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. So talent will prevail. But it's not bitching on Twitter. It's not saying we don't make enough money. It's fundamentally changing the rules of engagement. And this might be a strike. This might be picketing. Change isn't done overnight. And I know people that own businesses, people that own the NFL, you might disagree with my stance on this. You might not be a pro-union. I'm not saying I'm pro-union. But just going on Twitter and bitching about your situation, that's not how you make significant change. You need to do something. You need to do something about it, not just sit there and wallow in your sadness, in your despair. Now, for Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, what can they do? They can hold out. They can hold out and they'll miss game checks. And it would, I guess, if they had the financial means, they could do this. They could not play. And Le'Veon Bell did this. It didn't pay off for him. He didn't go back to the Steelers. He sat out that whole year, became a Jet the next offseason. His career was over before he knew it. His career was a disaster. It never worked out with him in the New York Jets. But they can hold out, become a free agent, take a year off their body, heal up. But it's risky business, and turning down $10 million this season, easier said than done. You're still making $10.1 million. But they can skip all the training camp. They don't got to go through preseason games. Here's another thing they can do. And this is a tough ask when you're a competitor and you get into this. What if Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley have a cap on how many carries they're going to have this year? Last night, I'm watching Quarterback right now on Netflix. Very good if you haven't seen it. But The Last Dance is airing on TSN on Monday nights, and I tape it. I've seen it 4 times already, but I love it. Because just Jordan inspires you to be great. And I'm watching that. When Jordan was hurt in his sophomore season in the NBA, broke his foot, he came back and he could only play 14 minutes a game. 7 minutes a half. Because the team was worried about him getting re-injured. What if he re-injures that foot? He's our franchise. He's Michael Jordan. He's everything. But they put that cap on him. What we've never seen in pro sports is a player put a cap on their production. Organizations do it because they don't want you to get re-injured. They're paying you a lot of money. They don't want to ruin the asset. What if the asset takes control of their own situation? What if Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley say, I got 200 carries in me this year. Figure it out. If I have 200 carries at the end of week 10, I'm done. I'm not carrying the rock again. Because guess what? I told you what I was willing to do. You put the restrictions on me. You didn't give me a long-term contract. I want to get a long-term contract to ensure my family's future. So, guess what? 200 carries, that's it. It would be a monumental change. This has never happened in pro sports in my memory, and I know a thing or two about pro sports. But no running back has said, I'm only running this number of times. Week 17, halfway through the third quarter, oh shit, we're at 198. Now, did he get a bonus check for the playoffs to get extra carries? Maybe they can work that out. A little McDonald's cash like NCAA back in the day, hand their athletes to give a few carries. Now, would their teammates hate them? I don't know. They got to do what's best for them. They got to think about money. And it's not as if they're saying, nope, let's say it's 200 carries. 200 carries is a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And if quarterbacks are so important, if that's the way the game's going, running backs shouldn't be asked to do 300 plus carries of work. Because, hey, we only make more money in the franchise tag than punters and kickers. Punters and kickers come out, no chance of getting hit, they just boot a ball. If we're on the low with them, hey, just leave us be down here. Let the big boys play. Maybe the respective franchises would tank and these players would make money because the team didn't win anymore. Who knows? But if they really want to do something about, if you don't want to hold out, you still want to make a game check, tell the team. You got 200 carries out of me, 17-week season, figure it out. If we're in the fourth quarter, I'm not running here. If it's gonna get to me to 201, nope. I'm out. It's 11 carries a game. So I can play 17 games. I can play the whole season for you. But I get 200 of these, not 300. Oh, and by the way, if I catch it, that counts. That counts. Josh Jacobs had 300 carries, over 350 touches last year for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a lot of wear and tear. Do you want to go through that again? No, I don't think the running back is always right. Barkley and Jacobs were offered long-term contracts. Just wasn't at the dollar amount that they wanted. And if they were offered less money than Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry, I understand them for not taking that deal. They want to push the market forward. Next man up. If you're free, you want to make more money than the person before you. It's called augmenting the salary cap, improving the market for your position. Every quarterback that becomes available makes more money. Jalen Hurts makes more money than Patrick Mahomes, than Josh Allen. Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, if they get signed before the season, will they be making more money than Mahomes? Yes. Are they better than Mahomes? No. Deshaun Watson is the true outlier because he signed that ridiculous contract. But looking at the world of reality outside of the Cleveland Browns, every quarterback that becomes available that's at the top of their field will make more than the quarterback before them. Nathan McKinnon makes more money than Connor McDavid. Only $100,000, but he had to do that so that Austin Matthews can make more this summer. That's the way business works. You want to help out your fellow man in the field, your fellow competitor, but you want to help them because guess what? You want to make more money in your next contract. And you want the future of the league continue to make money and to soar and to be successful, yada, yada, yada. For Josh Jacobs, the Raiders are a sinking ship. He had over 350 plus touches last year, and they missed the playoffs. Now they go into this season with porn star Jimmy as their quarterback. No word on if he's going to be ready to play yet. He had that foot surgery that was really complicated. Tom Brady's the team owner. They got no great solution as a backup quarterback. Plus, Jimmy gets hurt every year. So to consider that the Raiders are going to be a playoff team in a division with the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the revamped Broncos is foolish to me. So if I'm Josh Jacobs, I want to get 300 plus touches to miss the playoffs and to be a lottery team, to likely get a top 10 pick in the draft, and for them to maybe take my replacement. Who knows? Why would you want to? I understand for him. The Giants look at this with Saquon Barkley. The Giants, for lack of a better term, fucked this up. Back in March, I think it's like March 18th, you have That's the day you put franchise tags on a player, and you have to decide if you're going to put the franchise tag on a guy, if you're going to let a person go to free agency. And the Giants had Danny Dimes, Danny Nichols, discount double check, Daniel Jones, and Saquon Barkley up. They were coming off a season where they won a playoff game. They made the playoffs, and they're riding away momentum. Joe Shane was a good hire as GM. Brian Daboll was a great hire as head coach. And they're feeling good about themselves. But the Giants screwed this up. That March 18th day, might not be the 18th, but I know it's in March. They gave Danny Dimes $40 million a year. They worked it out the last possible second, and Danny Dimes, discount double check, walked away with a boatload in guaranteed money. Daniel Jones, who had one good year as a pro, that's it. But you give him a long-term deal. It was a 4-year, $160. It's a deal that could be worth as much as $190 million in total. And for the most part, nobody liked this contract. Because most people with a brain don't like this contract. One good season where he was great, but he used his legs more than his arm. They limited his risk. He didn't throw the ball down the field. And he played well. Oh, okay, you can throw checkdowns, you have a good running attack, and you have a good defense. Okay. But you pay him $160 million. So by doing that, they were able to get the Daniel Jones contract done, and they franchise tag Saquon Barkley. In this offense, Saquon Barkley is more important than Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones, if they didn't do this, he would have walked to free agency. But no, he wouldn't have. They could have franchise tagged Daniel Jones. Prove it one more year that you can play at this level. Prove that you can play as an elite quarterback in this league. And they could have given Saquon Barkley the long-term contract. And reportedly, according to Mike Sando of The Athletic, who was a good reporter, Saquon Barkley wanted about $16 million per year. It's a lot for a running back, but with this team and this offense, it made sense. It made sense. And they didn't go that way. It was sitting there. It was sitting there for them, and they didn't do it. Why? Daniel Jones would be making $32,416,000 this year if he was playing on the franchise tag. On a 1-year deal. Still crazy money. But if he stinks up the joint and he's no good, guess what? See ya bye. You cut bait, see ya Daniel Jones, we're drafting a new quarterback. Because there's a couple damn good ones coming out of this NCAA class this year. More than just the top two that you hear about. We'll talk about that later in the year. NCAA preview coming next month too. Football is back. But you could have went this route. Signed Saquon, proven entity, franchise tag, discount, double check, but you didn't do it. I've liked Joe Shane's moves. I think Brian Daboll's a good head coach. I'd mentioned John Mara. I think he's one of the dumbest owners in sports. I don't like him for multiple reasons. I think he meddles too much. I'm sure he meddled here because he likes to screw up everything he does. But now you have Saquon Barkley, who's Mr. Professional, has done nothing wrong as a Giant, great in the community. You have him mad at your organization. That's not good. You don't want that. Because Giants fans love Saquon Barkley. Because I think most of them realize, holy shit, on our team, our running back is way better than our quarterback. Which he is. And you got Daniel Jones for 4 years if it doesn't work out. And the feeling is we always got to have a quarterback. Yeah. You do. But you could have had him again under the franchise tag. And here's even the thing that makes it more curious. Joe Schoen didn't draft Daniel Jones. Dave Gettleman did. Dave Gettleman selected Daniel Jones 6 overall. Remember that draft? Everybody's surprised. Giants fans were booing the pick. So, most time in pro sports, Joe Schoen might go to John Mara and say, hey, I didn't draft this guy. We kept him for 2 years. Brian got what he could out of him. He's not good enough to win. Standard here in the Mecca for the Giants in East Rutherford, New Jersey, because we're the New York Giants, but we play so far outside of New York, would make anybody else cry. I don't like him. I'd rather draft my own quarterback. I'd rather look at Drake May or Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix or all these NCAA quarterbacks, or maybe a veteran becomes available. Maybe we want Kirk D. Cousins. Who the hell knows? But I don't love this player. Most times the owner says, you know what, you didn't draft him. You like your own guy, get your own guy. He hasn't won anything with us. He's won 1 playoff game in 5 fucking years. See ya. See ya, bye. So it's okay. And I'm not going to fire over that because it wasn't your mistake. I'll tell you, giving Daniel Jones this contract, that's on Joe Schoen now. That's your legacy, sticking this contract to that player. I don't wish Daniel Jones malintent. I don't want him to fail. But do I think he's going to fail? More than likely. Because I don't think he's a great quarterback. And if the argument is, and I've said this forever, if the only argument is to sign this guy, well, we need a quarterback. Okay. So is the quarterback is a quarterback a running back now? You just need one. We need a quarterback. Yeah, that's true. You do need to dress one, but do you need to pay one this amount of money? Fuck. Just sign Gardner Minshew, let him soak up snaps and throw away a year. God. Or put a quarterback on the franchise tag and let him play it out. How about that? And then Saquon Barkley signed. He's at training camp. He's got that beautiful smile. Daniel Jones, go prove it. And if Daniel Jones leaves and he's spiteful because he's mad at the Giants, so be it. Go back to Duke. And I don't think it would be like the Kirk Cousins situation because Kirk Cousins was franchise tagged twice. And it worked out for him because he got bigger money to go to Minnesota. The relationship wasn't good with him in the football team at the time in Washington. But he moved on. But I think Danny Dimes likes playing for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones is a household name not because of the way he plays football. It's because he plays for the New York Football Giants. Plays in the NFC East. Plays the Dallas Cowboys twice a year. That's why. But now the Giants and the Raiders have these poor storylines going into training camp. Josh McDaniels and Brian Daboll will have to answer questions about this until September, likely. Where's Josh Jacobs? Have you heard from Josh Jacobs? It'll be a daily thing. Media has to do it. It's their job. And it's boring for the coach, and you hate it, of course. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. For the Raiders don't know where they're going. And they're in a tough division. And I fully believe that they're going to have a new quarterback by the end of this year. Jimmy will play out the year. I don't expect him to be the starting quarterback in 2024, 2025. It'll be a rookie. They got Devontae Adams, and they're in a weird place. And Josh Jacobs likely will want to be on a new team next year anyway, because are the Raiders going to be competitive right away? Are they going to be competitive this year? To me, they're the betting favorite to finish last in the AFC West. Because every other team has gotten better around them. And I don't think the Raiders got that much better. And I root for porn star Jimmy. I like porn star Jimmy. Good football player. Underappreciated in San Francisco. But the Raiders aren't San Francisco. They don't got that defense that you had in San Fran. There's no Debo Samuel. You got Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow and a bunch of guys. But this will be a storyline going forward until the season officially kicks off in early September. Tennessee Titans also made news this week. They signed veteran wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year, $26 million contract, which is also up to $35 million total in incentives. And he'll make $12 million salary in year one. The two teams rumored to be in the mix for DeAndre Hopkins were the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots. Get back to the Titans angle on this. But for the Patriots, this is a swing and a miss. The New England Patriots had to sign DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion. They needed to break the Patriot way and open up their checkbook. The New England Patriots don't have a number one wide receiver. And you could argue, do they have a number two? They have Devontae Parker, cast off from the Miami Dolphins. They traded him in division. That's how much they really worry about him. Juju Smith-Schuster came over from Kansas City. He had off-season surgery. He had a great year. Can he keep it going? Tyquan Thornton, heading into his sophomore year, battled injuries in year one. I think he's the biggest X factor of this receiving core. Kendrick Bourne is back, was never used in the offense last year. They drafted Kayshon Boutte out of LSU. How many snaps does he get? That's the receiving core. That's the wide receivers. You have Hunter Henry. They signed Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins. But looking at that receiving core, there's no number one. Okay, if you say Juju Smith-Schuster's a number two, fine. But there's no receiver there that scares you. No defense will have to double team any New England wide receiver. Nobody. They will look at that group and say, okay, single coverage the whole game. Let's see if you can beat us. Mac Jones is entering year 3. It's a big year for Mac after a disaster in year 2. Matt Patricia is no longer the offensive coordinator, thank God. It's Bill O'Brien, formerly of the Houston Texans, and was recently coaching at the University of Alabama. But if you don't have talent, it's hard to win. The outlier, you could argue, was the Giants last year, but they had a great running attack. They had a really good defense. But you look at, for the Patriots, okay, I like their defense a lot. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to the season. They got a great defense. the Patriots. Very, very good. Loaded with talent. But you also got to look at your division. The Bills are still there. They're still prominent. They're still kicking around. Tua Tagovailoa is doing jiu-jitsu or judo. He's learning how to fall. He's not going to be concussed anymore. Plus, they still got Tyreek Hill and the whole show they have there in Miami. And they revamped their defense with Jalen Ramsey. They're pretty good. And the Jets signed Aaron Rodgers. If you didn't hear, he's now a Jet. And all his buddies who came with him. And they got rookies and sophomores. And the Jets are a pretty good football team. So you have the least talent in your division. You're in a loaded AFC with Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. So even you say, okay, we won't win our division, we'll be a wild card team. Okay. Really? Currently, the Patriots are the betting favorite to finish last in the AFC East. If I know that internally, that our wide receiver group is below average, I'm signing a wide receiver because they're a dependent position for a quarterback that lacks mobility, lacks arm strength, and is been adequate since entering the NFL. And it's not all Mac Jones' fault because he's had bad coordinators, he's had bad skill position players, but this is what you got, Mac. And Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in NFL history. We know this. But things change. The running back position changed. And the way you did business 20 years ago doesn't mean it's going to work now. The world evolves, people evolve, business evolves. The NFL is evolving every day. We're only going to pay this amount of money. We're going to get bottom tier wide receivers because this is just the way we do it. Okay. They have one playoff appearance since Tom Brady departed New England. The Patriot way worked when you had Tom Brady. Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady, and now the Patriot way is just something that you can label in a mockery type setting. It's a joke, the Patriot way, because it doesn't work anymore. Any NFL fan, any Patriots fan that says, oh, we have the Patriot way, what does that mean? You spend no money to get shit talent. Yeah, that makes sense to me. You get what you pay for, right? You get Devontae Parkers, you get Juju Smith-Schusters, you get Mac Joneses. But if you retort to, hey, Bill, why didn't you pay up? That's the way we do business here. Patriot way. On to Cincinnati. That is, what is it? Stupidity. It's wrong. It's not the modern NFL. Can Greg Popovich still coach? Last 7 years on San Antonio, they've been a joke. Since Tom Brady went to Tampa, New England has been an afterthought. They've been a team nobody cares about. They don't get national televised games because who gives a shit? The biggest, how can I label this? The most recognizable face on the New England Patriots is not a player, it's Bill Belichick. That's a problem. And that's not just because your marketing sucks. That's because nobody on your team, you don't have a face, you don't have an identity, you don't have anything about your team other than the Patriot way. Well, the Patriot way was like on Tommy Boy when they're driving down the road and in comes the meat wagon, goes over the fucking cliff. That's what happened the Patriot way. Because when you don't evolve and you don't improve your roster, you are stuck in mediocrity. Bill Belichick's the same guy, same the crusty old bastard that he was 30 years ago. That can be fine. But are you doing things behind the scenes that are different? And they aren't. Julian Edelman's and Danny Amendola's and all these guys that you'd never heard of work when you have Tom Brady. Mac Jones ain't no fucking Tom Brady. And when you hire incompetent coordinators to be with the below average quarterback, you're fucked. DeAndre Hopkins, is he as good as he was when he was 24? No. But the Patriots are in this position where they are really good on defense. They are well coached to an extent. And they're still in this mold where we're competing. We're a playoff team. We want to compete for a Lombardi. Okay. That's fine. You're doing that with this roster? DeAndre Hopkins would at least change the element, can at least catch a 50-50 ball, can demand a double team every once in a while. Nobody else in this roster can do that. Nobody. So, your roster stinks. You got to spend the money, Bill. I get it. Patriot way. We got to do it this way, and it's the way we've done it forever. Okay, yada, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work anymore. You want to miss the playoffs again? The Patriots miss the playoffs again. What happens? What happens, Patriots fans? I'll tell you, that seat's going to be hot in New England. Seat's going to be hot. It's football. Bob Kraft isn't going to live forever. He's in his 80s. What's he going to want to do? Is he going to keep Bill Belichick around to be Mr. Stickler, Mr. General Manager who doesn't spend any money and roster stinks and we have no talent on offense? I don't see why. And are you competing just to make a wild card and then to get smoked by the Cincinnati Bengals? Or are you competing for a Lombardi? You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. This roster, if it makes the playoffs, which I don't think it will, is flawed. You make the playoffs, you're gonna lose in the wild card game. Just the way it's gonna go. So you lose in a wild card game, all shucks. At least we make the postseason. Okay. That wasn't the standard when Brady was there. I guess that was Brady's standard, not Belichick's standard. I don't know. But this is a miss by New England. Pay him. Sign him. Help Mac Jones. Help yourself. Every team in your division is better than you. Oof. For the Titans, they only had 6 touchdown receptions by wide receivers last year. 31st in the NFL. They traded A.J. Brown, and it's been an open door since. They drafted Treylon Burks a year ago, who I like. Good player, but he's not a number 1 yet. And Tennessee's in this weird position where they are in a division with 2 rookie quarterbacks and a Jacksonville team that really came on the scene for the first time last year with Trevor Lawrence and made that run to the divisional round. But I think Tennessee looks in the mirror and says, we're in a division where we can win this thing. Ryan Tannehill is entering the last year of his contract. They have sophomore Malik Willis and rookie Will Levis behind him. 3rd round and a 2nd round quarterback respectively. So Tannehill has some guys behind him want to take his job. They still have Derrick Henry. They drafted Tajay Spears, who is a fun back. Really versatile. I think he's going to fit really well. Was at Tulane, who had a great year last year. But you have D-Hop, Traylon Burks. It's still not a great receiving core. Nick Westbrook-Afeen. That's why you need to do something. They looked at their situation and said, we need to improve this. Because we don't have a whole lot of talent. I like their tight end, Okonkwo. I think he's really good. They drafted Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. Their defense is as good as it gets, and I love Mike Vrabel, their head coach. But they looked at their situation and said, we need DeAndre Hopkins. We're going to spend more money than he might be worth because we're so talent deficient. And we're in the AFC South, where Houston had the second pick in the draft, and they traded up to get the third pick. So they got 2 rookies. They're trying to turn around, new head coach. Indy, new head coach, new quarterback, trying to turn things around. So Tennessee, I think, looks at himself and says, we should be the second favorite to win this division. We want to compete with Jacksonville to win the division this year. Now for Hopkins, he's got incentives in his contract. He's going to want targets. He's going to want catches. And I think he'll be a wide receiver that's pissed if Tannehill gets benched, because I don't think the rookies will be ready to play it and he won't get as many targets or receptions. So he needs to be good, and that means Tannehill is going to be good for him to maximize his opportunity in Tennessee. But normally the AFC South is this faceless division. Since Peyton Manning left it, the Colts have been, you had Andrew Luck for a while, but he's gone. And it's just been, okay, we got an AFC South game on a Thursday night, who cares? I don't think that's going to be the way it is this year. I really don't. Houston drafted C.J. Stroud, too. They drafted Will Anderson Jr. the third. 2 rookies, new faces of the franchise. Let's see how C.J. Stroud performs at the NFL. Colts, Anthony Richardson, drafted 5th overall out of the University of Florida. The most talked about quarterback in this draft because he's got the most upside, showed the least in college. How does he do at the NFL level? Plus, the Colts were a pretty decently talented team before all this happened. Disaster last year with Matt Ryan and Jeff Saturday. Can Shane Steichen turn it around as an offensive coordinator that made it to the Super Bowl last year in Philly? Then you have Tennessee with Will Levis, another rookie quarterback who may get snaps this year behind Ryan Tannehill. And you have Jacksonville, who have the pressure to win the division again with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Continuing that success, continuing the evolution of a really good young quarterback. So I think the AFC South is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun. Not to mention Jacksonville re-signed Evan Ingram yesterday. Evan's a tight end I really like. 3 years, $41.25 million. The dude can play. Had a tough start with the Giants. So I like the cut of that jib. I like that team. So there's some fun stuff there. I just think he's good. You got Jacksonville, who've got momentum. And as I'm seeing that on Twitter, veteran running back Leonard Fournette is working out today for the Patriots, per sources. Lombardi Lenny won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady in Tampa. Now Brady's old team is taking a look. He was rumored, he almost signed with the Patriots last offseason, but decided to go back to Tampa. But you have Leonard Fournette, Super Bowl champion, remains unsigned. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who remains unsigned. You have Kareem Hunt, who remains unsigned as a running back. there's still some good players available. There's still a lot of running backs who I think will have value. It was rumored that maybe Ezekiel Elliott might go back to the Cowboys. That was kind of debunked this week, reporting. But you have Dalvin Cook, who's an awesome, still can really play. He's only 28. Jadeveon Clowney, former number 1 overall pick. Marcus Peters, corner. Melvin Ingram. Teddy Bridgewater remains unsigned. Justin Houston. I would side Justin Houston should be signed. Still can play. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, probably the only quarterback, but it's injuries last year. He struggled in Miami. But Yannick Ngakoue, only 28, edge player. So interesting that some good running backs still available. Leonard Fournette working out with the Patriots today. I do think he's going to get a contract somewhere. If there's an injury, he will get a look. I think he'll certainly get a look. He'll get a call from somebody. He's not what he used to be, but he's still a power back. And if you don't have him on the field in every snap, then that's a win. That's you can deal with that. Certainly. There's also news out of Dallas. I'm going to save that for tomorrow, though. I'm going to read up more on that. Some juicy stuff out of Dallas, actually, with contracts and just some drama there with the Cowboys, but we'll save that for tomorrow's show. But yeah, I hope that was a good breakdown on the running back market and what's happening. And what I would do if I was them, I'd consider it. It would be groundbreaking, but I think it would be fun. And then they need to think about number 1 and what's good for them, quite frankly, in their careers. Let's pivot to baseball. So I don't like to say I told you so. I mean, I do, really. I do, actually. That's a lie. I love saying I told you so. I like being right. I mean, who doesn't? But I'm watching a lot of baseball. Like products very good this season. The switches to the game were needed. They're fun. They're inventive. I love it. But I'm tuned into a few different games last night. I'm watching the Phillies. I've been watching a lot of them lately. They're red hot. And there was 12 games last night with teams that scored at least 12 runs. Crazy. But I tune into the Blue Jays game a little bit because I know Alek Manoah is starting. Kevin Gausman's being held out of the entire Padres series with some type of an injury. No harm, no foul. Smart decision. He's your ace pitcher. You sit him out. You got the depth to deal with it, especially coming off the All-Star break and a day off. So you're in good shape. But I see Alek Manoah is getting the start against Joe Musgrove. 2 really good pitchers. Padres in Toronto rarely happens, but it does this year because of the schedule change. Also love that. Let's watch this. And Alek Manoah, who was praised by Sportsnet. And yes, I'm talking about Sportsnet directly. After a start against the Detroit Tigers, where I don't think he was all that good, went 5+, and the Tigers stink beyond repair. But he's back. Alek Manoah, he's finding the zone. He's got his swagger. He's got his machismo. He's back. Well, is he back is my question. Because I watched the game last night. Alek Manoah, 3 innings, 3 hits, 4 earns, 5 walks. That's the biggest thing. 5 walks. He can't find the zone. He can't get guys out. 0 strikeouts last night for Alek Manoah. And the Blue Jays get clobbered 9-1. Now you could look at the Juan Soto and say that was a strikeout in the first inning if you're watching the game. I don't think they called a strike on Soto on the first pitch. I don't think that was a strike. So I think at the worst, that's a 2-2. Then Soto hits a oppo field home run on Alek Manoah. Pete Walker's pissed. He goes out. He gets tossed. Good on him for supporting his pitcher. No problem with that. Love getting in a dumb umpire's face because the umpire was horrible last night. That's true. Both sides, horrible. The strikes he was calling, I would want to kill the guy. But 5 walks is 5 walks, folks. And the Padres aren't the Tigers. That's another thing. The Padres are, yes, not having the year that you thought, but they still got Juan Soto. They still got Manny Machado. Still got a lot of good players up there. Fernando Tatis Jr. the third, my former favorite player. But, I mean, if one game means you're back and because you're adequate, does one game when you're awful and you go 3 innings mean you're finished? I just like to set the standard here. What is the standard when you play great and then you don't even play great? 5+? It's the Tigers. And you're back, you're fantastic. Then you pitch against the Padres and you stink up the joint. And then what is the, it's only one game. That's what I hear this morning. Oh, it's only one game. Well, okay. It was only one game before, but he was all the way back and he's Alek Manoah and he's our ace pitcher and he's back in the swing of things. I don't know. What's the right answer? The Blue Jays want Alek Manoah to be great. Don't we all? They want him to be great. They want him to be an ace. And this remains to be seen. And I will say, every start that he makes becomes more and more interesting because you want to see how good or bad he is, or adequate. That's always a possibility. But how's he going to pitch? To me, it was a mistake to bring him up that early. I've talked about this many times. I didn't get it. Why is he up right now? Why is he in the bigs? It's pressure he doesn't need. He's not ready to pitch in the big leagues yet. Right before the All-Star break, we're playing against the Tigers, who stink. Let's bring him up, get that confidence, and we'll go from here. Okay. He pitches adequate, and it's all smiles. Well, then you play against a real team with real bats and a team that has aspirations to make the playoffs, unlike the Tigers, and he gets smoked. So do you only pitch him against teams that have no aspirations of making the playoffs? No, it's kind of hard to do when you're in a rotation. And the schedule is the schedule. But what do you do? To me, he doesn't look confident. He doesn't have the pitch to strike guys out. He doesn't have location. The miles per hour still aren't there. And he's begging for strikeouts. He's not getting them. Who would he walk like? What was that at bat? Soto homer. This was the second time through the order. It might have been the leadoff man, Kim. He threw 2 pitches that were on the outside, and they weren't strikes. It was the same pitch. He threw it twice, and both of them were not strikes. And he wanted both calls, and they were balls. It was one time where the umpire was correct. And he was begging for a strikeout, begging to get off the field. But it wasn't from a sense of confidence, in my opinion. It was from a sense of desperation. Let me get out of this inning. I'm throwing 40+ pitches. I can't get anybody out here. I like watching him pitch. He was really fun last year. He's combative on the mound. I love everything about Alek Manoah. But he's had 2 starts where he pitched against the Tigers, who suck. And he's played against the Padres, who are trying to get back into the playoff mix, and they smoke him. So I just don't know what to do with these results. What's the answer? What's happening here? I think they rushed him. And I think they kind of know it inside that complex. They know he's a work in progress, but should he be in the majors right now? Because what if he struggles in his next start? I believe that's going to be this weekend in Seattle. He's pitching Sunday, I believe. Sunday in Seattle. What if he struggles there? What if he gets blown up again? Do you keep letting him pitch, or do you send him back down? That's the problem with opening up Pandora's box. Is once you open it, you can't close it. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't like the way they've handled it from the beginning. It's the wrong way to go about it. But this is the way they've handled it. And maybe it's easier to send him back down to AA or the complex than I believe. And maybe he'll be great in his next start, and I'm blowing this out of proportion. And if I do, I'll own up to it. But I haven't seen much that would make me real confident that he's going to be great moving forward. I haven't seen that from him. I hope he does, because he's really good for baseball, and I've mentioned this before. The Blue Jays are one of the best teams in the majors. There's no team in the American League that should scare them. The Rays have hit the skids. They've lost 2 in a row to the Rangers. They are 2-2 coming out of the All-Star break. 2-3, pardon me. Padres swept the Marlins. Now they're going up against the Dodgers. They're getting smoked. Save the Yankees for a minute. They're a non-threat. Texas is really good. Houston lost to the Rockets. But last was a weird night in baseball last night. But there's no team that scares you. But if Alek Manoah isn't going to be a part of the future, or you can't rely on him, then you need to address it. Is it going to be Hyun-Jin Ryu? Could be, but again, he hasn't pitched in the majors yet this season. The way it looks, it's unlikely he'll pitch in the majors before the All-Star break, which is in a week and a half. I just would have kept him down there. Keep him down there till August. Who cares? It would have been okay. Have a few more bullpen starts. Trevor Richards is having the best season of his career. He was doing really well in those situations. But Gosman's dealing with an issue. Manoah can't pitch. This is when things start to bubble up. They haven't had injuries all year. They've been the most healthy team in baseball. Maybe it's going to start to pop up from them, but I worry about Manoah. I didn't think he was going to pitch 3 innings. I thought he might be done after the first inning, honestly, because I looked at Pete Walker and I looked at John Schneider, the way they were talking with one another in the dugout. It wasn't from confidence. It was like, oh God, look at this. The same problems that were here 2 weeks ago are still here now. What can we do? The Yankees lost again last night. They got walked off on Monday night by the Angels. Then they lose 5-1. They've lost 4 of the first 5 games from the All-Star break. They are in trouble. only 4 games above 500, last in the American League East, and they sit 2.5 games out of the final wildcard spot. But they're losing to the Rockies. They're losing to the Angels. And all Yankees can talk about is, well, we're playing against Shohei Ohtani. Imagine he was on our team next year. Okay. Sure. That would be fun, of course. It'd be great to have Shohei Ohtani on your team. What about this year? What about this year? And the Yankees, they would be a seller if they weren't the Yankees. The Yankees aren't a good team at all. I didn't think they were from the beginning. You have no Aaron Judge. Josh Donaldson is heading home, but now he's on the IR because he's old and he can't do it anymore. They have a bunch of pitching injuries. Severino's been a disaster all year long. You're getting out-hit by the Angels, for Christ's sake. Ohtani hit his 7th triple of the season, which leads baseball. The dude's a freak. So all you can do is think about what it would look like for him to be in the pinstripes. What it would look like for him to be in a Yankee uniform. That's all they got right now. They're not winning any games. Giancarlo Stanton is doing nothing. JJ LeMahieu is just a bad contract they have in the books. And they're just treading water, hoping to make the playoffs in a tough American League. And I think Brian Cashman looks at the situation. I need to do something at this trade deadline, knowing full well that this team isn't good enough to do it. There hasn't been much reporting on Aaron Judge. But if things keep going the way they're going for the Yankees, they play the Angels again today. They lose today. Then they go into the weekend. And who they got this weekend? The Yankees got Kansas City. Well, there you go. Get your little soft series. Kansas City stinks. But again, they lost 2 or 3 to the Rockies last weekend, so no sure bet they'll win that game. But you start losing more and more series. You start losing more and more confidence. Aaron Judge shouldn't play again this season. This is like the Michael Jordan thing, where they sat him out. He's your franchise. You gave him way too much money to play for your team. I'm not playing him again. He's not playing again because I need him for the next 7-8 years. I need him to be ready. I need him to be our captain, whatever the fuck that means, and just be available. Be completely healthy going into next season after we take a run at Shohei Ohtani, after we fire Aaron Boone. After we fire Brian Cashman. Wait, what just happened? After we do all these things to our roster to change it, because our team's too old, too power-based, and just not with the new times of baseball. After we revamp it, then you can come in, play center field, be our best player, and hopefully we can make a run. But for the Yankees to even think, they're not a World Series contender this year. They're not. It's a facade. It's a complete, it's a lie. The Red Sox are a better team than the Yankees. Truthfully, they are. They bring more to the table than the New York Yankees. And the Red Sox are in a rebuilding season, for Christ's sakes. But if I'm the Yankees, I'm looking in the mirror. And just adding because you're the Yankees is stupid logic. And making moves to appease fans is even dumber. Just stupid. Fans are irrational. Fans are, for lack of a better term, stupid. So don't listen to them. And I love all the fans out there. But you know who you are. You're stupid. But last night, Dodgers 10-3. Guardians 10-1. Padres 9-1. Giants 11-10 over the Reds. Mets 11-10 over the White Sox. This was, I've watched about 7 innings of this game. Diamondbacks 16-13 over the Bravos. Cubs 17-3 over the Nats. Royals 11-10 over the Tigers. And Twins 10-3 over the Mariners. Just scoring galore. Craziness. last night. There's a game in about 40 minutes. There's some pressure on the Rays to win today in Texas. You don't want to get swept by the Rangers because then they go home to play the Orioles for 4, which is a great series this weekend. Also, a lot of pressure on the Marlins. They've lost 5 in a row. They're in St. Louis. They got walked off by Nolan Arenado. The Cardinals are finally winning games. Arenado is hitting everything right now. Do you trade him? Because they're starting to find their way. They're still 10.5 back in the wild card. They're nowhere close. And much to my chagrin, and I don't know how, the San Francisco Giants are the first wild card team in the National League. I don't get it. They're 54-41. They're clubbing the Reds. The Reds are now 3 back of the wild card. They've lost 5 in a row coming out of the All-Star break. The Marlins are now outside the wild card. Diamondbacks, Philly, Miami. Race there. Cincinnati's still in the mix. San Francisco, do they call on Shohei Ohtani? They probably should. They probably should. They're only a game back of the Dodgers, for Christ's sake. My God, the Giants. Brewers, Phillies, Game 2. Red Sox close out the series against the Athletics. Yankees, Angels, Game 3, last one tonight. Ohtani pitches on Friday. And the Twins are at the Mariners tonight. So that's the baseball slate. But how about the Guardians? How about Josh Naylor, Canadian? 2 dingers last night. Playing great, batting over 300. Guardians go on Twitter, say he should have been an all-star. Should have been. His brother's catching every other day for the Gardeners. Bo Naylor, 2 Canadians on the Guardians, cutting it up. So good for them. But baseball's fun. You got to give it to them. It's fun. The way the games change. I'm watching more baseball than I ever have. But we'll keep track of all that tonight. Also waiting on news for UFC when it comes to fights. There's a bunch of rumors about guys pulling out of fights. I'm only gonna talk about that in the pod when I get some clarification. Because then we'll get into it. Lots of rumors of Paulo Costa with his rumored fight in 2 weeks. But he might not fight. Aliskerov in Utah, he might be fighting in Abu Dhabi against the Woof. Well, we'll talk about that later in the week if we get more details, because it's just a bunch of rumors right now with no confirmation anywhere. And you think we'd hear something, because that's supposed to be the 3rd fight on the main card in a week and a half in Utah. But nothing yet. The Open Championship tees off tomorrow at Royal Liverpool. The last major of the season. Rory McIlroy is the favorite to win at plus 650. Scotty Scheffler at plus 750. Since we talked on Monday, John Rahm's soared up. He's at plus 1400, but he's now 3rd. He was at 7th, I believe, before. Followed by Cam Smith at plus 1500. Tommy Fleetwood plus 2000. Brooks Koepka plus 21 with Rick Hovland. Patrick Cantlay at plus 2600. Morikawa. Open Championship. You always think of Brits, Scotland, stuffiness. It's different in golf. Their courses look like shit a lot of the time. And what I like about the Open Championship, it's not PGA Tour, it's different. And I like the way they've done their groups for the most part. Brooks Koepka is in a group with Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay is the slowest golfer on the PGA Tour. And Brooks likes to play fast. He doesn't like to wait around. And they are paired together with Hideki Matsuyama, who's also a guy who doesn't love to rush things. Oh, that's great. It's great. I want to see Brooks snap. I don't think he'll say a word to Cantlay on the course. Three goals. You have two major champions in Cantlay, who's really good. But can Koepka keep it together? Does he lose focus? Does he snap? I want to see that kind of drama. I want to see that stuff come out. That will be great theater, great entertainment. Cam Smith, Schauffele, Wyndham Clark. Love it. Cam Smith, reigning champion. Schauffele, always a contender. And you have Wyndham Clark, who just won the U.S. Open. Good. Scotty Scheffler with Tommy Fleetwood. Two guys that don't mess around. Two guys that play really well at majors. Two guys have had really good seasons, quite frankly. And they get to play with one another. With Adam Scott, throw the veteran in there, former Masters champion. But I think this group is going to be playing really well because I think they're going to push each other to play really well. Scheffler's been on a roll. Hasn't won a major this year, however. Only has one in his trophy case. I think he's definitely motivated to win another one. Fleetwood's never won a PGA Tour event. He's obviously never won a major. But he's gotten close this season. He's always finished top 10 at the majors in 2 of the 3. He's a good bet to do it again. Rick Hovland, Tony Finau, Justin Thomas. Victor Hovland is the king of the majors. He just doesn't win them. Plays great at the majors, hasn't won one yet. Justin Thomas has been a disaster all year long. However, you can get Justin Thomas right now at plus 5,500 to win the Open Championship. You can get Justin Thomas at plus money just to make the cut. I am betting that. I think he makes the cut. And I wouldn't mind throwing a little scratch on him winning the tournament. He's a really good golfer. If he can find his game, he can absolutely win this. Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, Justin Rose. If Rory McIlroy won the Scottish Open, Jon Rahm, the number 1 player in the world, and you have Justin Rose, who's a fan favorite playing overseas. I think McIlroy and Jon Rahm have great respect for one another, but I don't know if they have the greatest relationship with one another. Rahm hasn't played all that great since he won the Masters, really. His back half of his season's been disappointing. McIlroy's just coming off a huge win. He's finding success. He's finding his game again. Jon Rahm's won the U.S. Open. He's won the Masters. Can he add the British Open to his trophy case? Rory McIlroy has not won a major since 2014. Can he break out and do it? Questions that have to be answered. And again, Rory and Rahm in the same group, 2 of the top 3 best betting odds to win the tournament right now. Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Tyrrell Hatton. Morikawa's won this event before. You can get him at plus 3,000. He hasn't won in over 2 years on the PGA Tour. Tyrrell Hatton, another guy who plays really well at the majors, has played well the last couple events he's played at, including last week at the Scottish. Max Homa's been a disappointing majors player. But you got to look at him as a sneaky bet that you can get right now to do well at this event and even to win it. Because he's played so poor, because you haven't heard his name, he's kind of sliding under the radar. And you can get Max Homa at plus 5,000 right now. Justin Rose has better odds. Tom Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick, all better odds. Jordan Spieth has better odds at plus 3,100. Jordan Spieth has had an injury play up and down season. Only one person can win. You don't want to make that many bets on who's going to win the tournament. But I like looking at guys like a long shot bet, a Sung J Im at plus 9,500. I don't mind that bet. Joaquin Niemann at plus 12,000. Really good golfer. If he can find his game, who knows? He's been on the LIV Tour, so you haven't heard from him for a long time. Again, Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas is now at plus 6,000. He was at plus 5,500 yesterday, so his number's going down. You can get him. You get better odds him right now. Go do it. Tyrrell Hatton plus 2,600. Cantlay is a sneaky one. I always say bet on Cantlay at a major, and the major I don't tell you to do it, he'll win one. Could he win this weekend? Absolutely. Because he can drive the ball, but he keeps it in the fairway for the most part. And he might not hit it as far as Rory or as Brooks. But if he plays this course smart, which he usually does, he can be a threat because he's a really good putter and he's a surgical. He plays slow as hell. You know he's going to get the right look at the hole because he'll take 5 minutes to do it. But that's his approach. Nick Taylor is playing with Phil Mickelson and Adam Schenk. Another fun group. Corey Connors is the best odds for Canadians. He's at plus 7,500. On FanDuel, I can't even find Nick Taylor. I find that surprising. I must have missed him. No, I think he's way down there. But Nick Taylor, a little Nick Taylor, Corey Connors parlay to make the cut. Not a bad bet. Both guys are playing pretty good golf right now. Nick Taylor obviously won a few weeks ago. Corey Connors shows up at the majors. I would throw that parlay to make the cut. Scotty Scheffler, T10, seems like the safest bet in sports right now. He just surgical. I would throw some scratch on Justin Thomas to win the event. And I would throw, honestly, you can get Hovland at plus 2,100. He's so good. He won at Memorial. Maybe it's his time. Those are my kind of bets going into the weekend that I like. I don't see William Clark winning back-to-back majors. Cam Smith plus 1,500, the defending champion. He just won on the LIV. He won this event last year. He's still one of the best putters in the world. Hard to win majors back-to-back. Could he? Sure. I'm not betting on it. Koepka won his major this year. Didn't play great, obviously, at the U.S. Open. I'm just interested to see how he plays with that group and if he can keep his composure. But you have the Open Championship, early morning starts. So you have some morning golf, which is fun. I don't like it as much as primetime Cali golf. But it's the last major of the season. Royal Liverpool, best golfers in the world. Always fun. So looking forward to that over the next 4 days. Other news, Ross Colton signed a 4-year, $16 million extension with the Avs. Love that deal. That's a perfect number. I love the player. He adds to their depth when it comes to scoring. If I can get Ross Colton at 4 or Michael Bunting at 4.5, I'll take Ross Colton at 4 every day of the week. Tanner Janot signs a 2-year, $4.65 million extension in Tampa. Good deal, needs to prove himself. Morgan Barron, pride of Atlantic Canada, re-signs with Winnipeg. Connor Bedard signs his entry-level contract with the Chicago Blackhawks. So good for him. He starts on his journey to the National Hockey League. We'll get into more salary arbitration Tomorrow, the numbers are out for Ilya Samsonov with the Maple Leafs, what he wants, what the team is willing to give him. So those arbitration dates are coming up in the next couple weeks. There's some notes on Matt Murray when it comes to could he be an LTIR candidate. Elliot Friedman talked about that this morning on 32 Thoughts. So there's that happening, but there's nothing on Erik Karlsson. No real rumors on Hellebuck, on Mark Scheifele. Pretty quiet on that front in the NHL world, but still lots of time before next season starts, so that there is really no rush. GMs very well could be on holidays right now, just giving it a little bit of a breather. But yeah, we'll get into the Cowboys situation tomorrow with Zach Martin. NFL training camps are opening. Any UFC updates, we'll discuss. The Open Championship up and running. So the NFL is back. If you can't hear the excitement in my voice, it's there. I'm thrilled to be able to talk about football on a daily basis again. And happy to be doing it with all of you. So thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for the support, as always. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. This is To The Point.